No, 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 no. Not then. Not again. We need to run.
I don't need a weapon.
What the?
If there's one thing the Halo community doesn't take kindly to, it's change. New mechanics are not always met with a warm reception. Even seemingly obvious, objectively good additions to combat can kick off decades-long debates over whether biologically modified super soldiers should be able to sprint or not. But with the release of Halo Infinite, 343 took a look at the ravenous mass of degenerate Halo fanboys like myself and said, shut up. You're gonna whip your ass around on a grappling hook and throw fusion coils over them mountains. And you're gonna like it. And they were right. It's fun as hell. So fun, in fact, that I took it upon myself to beat the entire campaign using only these mechanics. No guns fired, no grenades tossed, no swords, no hammers, no turrets, no vehicle weapons, no splatters. The only lethal options are melees, electro ground pounds, and chuckin' coils. Can you beat Halo Infinite without shooting a weapon? I tried this on easy because, well, I'm trying to beat a first-person shooting game without shooting. If you want to try doing this lasso, be my guest. I did, however, equip a few skulls to zhuzh up the challenge a little bit, because this is my challenge and I make the rules. We got the boom skull and the cowbell skull to crank up the fusion coil explosions. We got the bandana skull to remove the cooldown on our grapple, and we have Grunt Birthday Party and I would have been your daddy because why the hell not? So with all the technicalities out of the way, let's get into this. The first level, Warship Gibby, is essentially a tutorial level, so it's pretty easy to roll through without using guns. Punch the glowing thing, kill these dudes, meet the evil hologram antagonist, the Gibby falls apart, and we swing our way out of there. This part with the swinging pods was especially fun with the unlimited grappling hook. And with the help of the Beard Man, we clear the tutorial mission. Mission 2 is also pretty easy. We fusion coil over to the first boss, and he talks a big game, but well, he's what you'd expect from the first boss in the game. 2 levels down, 0 shots fired. As a reward, we get our first Spartan core. These cores are extremely important to this playthrough because we use them to upgrade our armor abilities, and we need to max out our grapple hook as soon as possible. But this first upgrade is good because it turns our grappling hook into a taser, so that's pretty cool. And after a bit more meleeing, grappling, and fusion coiling, we fight our way through the remaining banished and onto the surface of the ring. And just like that, we've beaten the first 3 missions of the Halo Infinite campaign without firing a single shot. But there is still a lot of work to be done. Though it's still early in the campaign and we'd likely be able to take down most enemies with our current build, I decided to go for the Spartan cores right away to get the Shockwave Blast ability. This melee attack will be crucial for later fights, and while we don't necessarily need it yet, it is an electro grapple hook ground pound that with the cowbell skull equipped sends enemies pinging into orbit like they were hit by a Skyrim giant. So it'd be cool to have. So we scoop up the first few available cores, we use them to lower the cooldown timer on our grappling hook, we clear the fob by the tower so we can unlock the last couple ones that we need. Pro tip, make sure you don't kill yourself on a fusion coil. And once we grab those last 2 cores, we can equip them, and boom, ground pound is activated. We are officially ready to crack skulls and gas canisters and sentient hive mind colonies of worms. And we're more than ready for the next mission, the tower. We punch our way through the banished fortifications and into the titular building where we meet the gilded invisible elite. And this bad boy definitely put up a stronger fight than the first boss. Pro tip number 2, don't kill yourself on a fusion coil. Twice. But eventually, we're able to take down Gold Dust here and clear out the tower. Mission 4 complete and the gunless run is still alive. As we grapple across the map, ignoring pleas for help from UNSC squads in trouble, we approach the first real test of the run, Excavation Site. This was a level that was a serious pain for me to complete on my first playthrough on Heroic. There's tons of ground forces and vehicles surrounding the drill, and the boss isn't an easy fight on its own, let alone without guns or grenades to use. But after some careful maneuvering, I made it to the outside forces and punched all the glowy things. But the boss fight in the drill was the primary concern. This angry brute is extremely tough and has good mobility, and his hammer will one-shot you if it connects, so it's really, really hard to kill, and he blew up instantly. Well, we're a third of the way through the game, and there hasn't been a major hiccup. Yet. But nonetheless, into the Conservatory we go. This mission was one of the more fun ones to play through without shooting. These narrow corridors force enemies to cluster up, making for easy multi-kills, and the Forerunner architecture makes the whole level feel like a parkour course. After some more expository hologram action, we're introduced to the new enemy in the game, the Skimmers. These guys are kind of annoying on higher difficulties, but in this playthrough, killing these suckers is like popping bubble wrap. After dispatching the mosquitoes, we take out these final 2 brute chieftains guarding the elevator. These guys are pretty bulky, so repeatedly bouncing them off the ceiling of this huge room is pretty entertaining. We ride the elevator up and meet the evil Squid Lady, finally an antagonist who's not a hologram. But unfortunately, she's not here to fight, just ramble a lot and then dip, but not before breaking our ankles and yeeting us out the window to end the mission. But we pick ourselves up and make our way over to the Spire. Guarding the entrance to the Spire is a pair of hunters. These boys can be tricky on higher difficulties, but they're no match for the grapple pound. It's definitely quicker to just melee them in the back, but you're going to want to spend a little time playing keepy-uppies with them outside. But once we head inside and reach the top of the Spire, we meet this asshole. This guy is by far the most annoying gunless fight in Halo Infinite. For previous boss battles, there have been plenty of fusion coils to use, and the bosses themselves were just elevated versions of other enemies. But this guy is a special breed of infuriating, because there's no fusion coils to use at the top of the Spire, and you can't grapple shot the adjective robot directly. The only way you can damage him is by luring him toward a wall and ground pounding the wall next to his weak points. Which he won't always put near the wall, of course. And to make matters worse, he has an AoE melee attack he'll use whenever you hit him, which takes a healthy chunk of your shields off every time it hits you. This one required a lot of patience. But after several hours of punching the wall and getting squished, this guy floated into the right position, and I was able to take him out with a ground pound on the wall. This was easily the most difficult part of the run up to this point. I hope we don't see this guy again. Nevertheless, Mission 7 is complete. We leap out of the Spire toward the halfway point of the run, and the no guns challenge is still a go. But things are definitely getting more dicey. Pelican down isn't nearly as much trouble as Spire was. We're tasked with taking out some anti-air guns so we can safely fly out of there. And this is an anti-gun playthrough, so we're all for destroying guns. And how do we destroy them? You guessed it. Punching the yellow things. Once we've taken care of all 3 of the AA guns, we face off against these 2 dinguses. One of them has a fancy chopper, and while it is possible to get mowed down by him if you aren't careful, it's also quite easy to dismount the dude and launch his ass into space. The other guy can jetpack around, but with some nimble grapple moves, we're able to track him down and swing around the wreckage of the frigate to eject the other Spartan killer brute. And with that, we've reached an important milestone in this run. We've officially passed the halfway point of the Halo Infinite campaign, and not a single shot has been fired. We actually might be able to do this. We fly over to the southeast part of the map and start the Sequence, the mission where you clear out 4 beacon towers across the ring in order to get a bunch more holographic exposition. The hardest part of this mission is just traveling all the way to each tower, since I'm speedrunning through all the levels and not clearing fobs for fast travel. But after hijacking a Banshee, the trips become a breeze. None of the beacons present much of a challenge for us at this point, since our grapple and shields are maxed out after collecting cores across the main story missions. Even large-scale vehicle confrontations are no match for our genocidal fists. Once the beacons are cleared, we can fly back to where we hijacked the original Banshee and make our way into the Nexus. I think this one might be the shortest mission in the entire campaign, because it really only consists of a couple rooms with moderately leveled enemies and another pair of hunters at the end for us to play with. Oh, and the slide. There's also this annoying section where these sentinels shoot at us as we move across this agonizingly slow gondola. I'm 100% certain that this was only added to this level specifically to make it feel longer. Just make sure you don't fall off the level trying to swat the sentinels and you're good to go. We fill a few more seed holes and piss off our e-girlfriend, which leads to a very awkward elevator ride up to the end of the mission. While it may seem like we're breezing through these levels, we're about to hit a point in this run that I personally have been dreading, and those of you who've already played the campaign are likely anticipating. The Command Spire starts out like any other mission in the Halo Infinite campaign. We swing past the Banished in this Forerunner manufacturing plant, and nothing here gives us any trouble. Until we work our way to this room. Yep, that's right. It's the return of this floaty asshole. And he has a new paint job. This fight is basically a juiced up version of the encounter from earlier. The Monitor is a bit tougher to whittle down, and his attacks are slightly more powerful. He also spawns sentinels during the battle, which normally wouldn't be much of a problem. But when they're out of range of the grapple, they can be a bit annoying to deal with mid-combat for sure. This fight was an absolute bitch. On multiple occasions, I caught a stomp attack on the chin and it glitched me through the floor into these hexagonal columns of nothingness. And there's no way out of these. In order to prevent myself from having to replay the entire level like I did the first time this piece squashed me through the floor, I had to kill myself with nades to reload the checkpoint. This fight also sucks because as you progress further into it, American Revolution lowers the columns around the fight area, which not only reduce the cover options, but also reduces possible impact spots that are high enough to reach the weak spots on his upper arms. But after dancing around this dude for what felt like forever, I caught the right angle and was able to deliver the final ground pound. Finally, for real this time, we're done with these monitor battles. We move up to the end of the Command Spire where we clear out some final banish. And at this point, I'm feeling really good about our prospects to complete this run. We've only got 4 missions left, and we've made it through the most annoying fight in the run so far. But then we hit a slight problem. There's this room at the end of the level that can't be cleared, and the cutscene can't be triggered without killing the phantoms that spawn outside. And we can't really do this with our fists. Believe me, I tried. And you can't wait for them to leave either. Because, well, they won't. There's plenty of guns around that you're intended to use to destroy the phantoms, but that's really it. There's no fusion coils or anything. There's simply no other way to destroy these things. We've come so far. We've killed so many other enemies that were far more irritating. But after everything we've been through, it's looking like there's no other way around this roadblock. But then I remembered something. The bandana skull grants unlimited grenades. I specifically chose not to use these because I thought they made the combat a bit too easy. But here, I think they're the only option we have to keep the challenge alive. So we bite the bullet, use the grenades to blow up the phantoms, and end the mission with the challenge and our pride mostly intact. It's not the ideal situation, but we're just about 3/4 through the way of this game now, and the main challenge is still a go. But at this point, a fatal setback would be devastating. The mission Repository is another hologram movie, so we can just rip right through this one. There's this one point where these sentinels attack you and you gotta be careful not to fall off the level as you melee them over a bottomless chasm, but it's not too hard. I appreciate that 343 gave us some nifty gold interiors to swing through as we whip past the banished troops who don't really put up much of a threat. The only formidable opponents on this one are some brute chieftains, but we've got some high-ass ceilings to bounce these boys off of, so it's pretty fun to fight them. Other than that though, this mission is pretty easy and brings us to the final outdoor level of the campaign, the road. And the road is, well, we can just grapple right past all of the banished fortifications. There's a lot of dudes here, but it's nothing to be afraid of. But make sure you have some fun punching some tanks off the world before ending the mission, because that's something they can never take away from you. And we've reached the penultimate mission, the House of Reckoning, aka Halo Infinite's arcade level. We're tasked with clearing 3 challenges before facing off with our parasocial stalker who's been leaving us weird hologram voicemails the entire campaign. The first room is hardly a challenge, with fusion coils littered across the area, and the second room is more of the same, albeit with slightly beefier enemies. Last is the Head Elite. This is a cool encounter aesthetically, but the fight itself is pretty easy if you use your ground pounds efficiently. And finally, we face the leader of the Banished we've heard so much about. And he's a tough cookie. I knew in order to take this guy out, we need to be smart. The key to beating this fight without shooting is to save the fusion coils for the end. We need to take this guy's shields down with melee attacks only. It's tempting to start throwing coils at him, but resist that urge. Our grapple mobility lets us dodge his shots, so we can just zip around the room, taking pop shots at him and punching more yellow things. We do this for a bit until all of his shields are broken, and then MC Escher takes out his dreaded glowing hammer. This thing killed me more times than I care to admit on other playthroughs, and I knew that melee attacks in the last section were going to be extra tricky. But here's where the fusion coils come into play. We bring back the Hannibal Buress fatality method, and with some clever timing and the right angle, we take down the second to last boss in the campaign. We rescue our bearded friend and proceed to the final level with the challenge still intact. The silent Auditorium isn't very tough in the beginning, especially for a final campaign mission. After clearing the final waves of banished forces, we go through the ultimate exposition elevator and into the fancy room where we actually get to face off against the Squid Lady. At this point I'm a little worried because I've never tried grapple hooking her before on previous playthroughs, so I was really hoping that the grapple would be able to connect. But after clearing the first wave of banished that enter, the Harbinger drops her shield and we learn that it does in fact connect and we can ground pound her ass. At this point, it's basically GG's. We dance around her shockwave attacks and eventually land a decisive blow. It's now official. We've beaten the entire game and in doing so have provided an answer to our original question. Can you beat Halo Infinite without shooting a weapon? The answer is a resounding yes.